Hello, this is Adrian, and today we're talking about consciousness. I'm making a few short videos and then I'll stitch them together for the tube. So behind me, you can see a cryptic bit of a drawing. It is based on the map of consciousness, which is this thing, which you can Google. What people think of consciousness is just one thing, it is. But there is a consciousness which is unprogrammed. In other words, we call that divine God. This just is. It's like it encompasses everything. But then you get lower levels of consciousness or levels of consciousness which are basically programmed. So these levels of consciousness, each one consists of, and if you go and look at Nikola Tesla and Einstein and all those people, they say it's vibration, energy, and nowadays people are saying it's vibration, energy, and information in every field. In every field of consciousness, these are fields of consciousness, and in every field there is vibration, energy, and information. So without getting too technical, let's just have a look at some of these levels. Okay, so here we have lower consciousness at the bottom here. This is the lower levels of consciousness, and it is life diminishing. In other words, it sucks the energy out of you. In the lower levels of consciousness, you won't last long. Okay, so what happens then is it really like sucks all the energy out of you, and because the energy is making negative or life diminishing in any case, what happens then, it takes away your vitality. Vitality is the energy that permeates through all of this. So it is vitality minus. In other words, it sucks the energy out of you. Now let's look at what it is. Okay, so here at the bottom, you have shame, guilt, and apathy. These three work together. Now, we live in a society that's very much driven, unfortunately, by apathy, guilt, and shame. Because what shame does, it is the lowest level of consciousness. It is hardly existing when you're living in shame. And you suffer shame when you are ashamed or people shame you and you accept it, you take it in. Then basically what happens is it kicks up into apathy. Okay, so someone shames you, you feel guilty, and then you go down into shame. Okay, or someone tells you you've done wrong, or they say something bad about you, say you're a bad person, that's judgment. So when you receive a judgment, then you go down into guilt, and then you go further down into shame. So then what happens is the result is apathy. There's no energy in apathy. Apathy means that you can't do anything. It's not that you don't want to do anything, because you develop a thing. It's interesting that I found it. It's called intention deficit disorder, not ADD. It's called IDD, intention deficit disorder, because you are now fully in survival mode. When you are fully in survival mode, what happens is the frontal brain shuts down. You go into the old back brain, and you can't function. Basically, you are just surviving. Okay, so that then it makes perfect sense if you look at how these things work together. All right. So not going to get too technical. Just keep going here. The next three is let's do it like that. It's grief, fear, and desire. Those are the three other ones. So grief is not grieving about somebody or somebody that's passed or something that you lost. The grief is a state of consciousness that is really, it results, if you put the three of them together, it actually results in sadness. And you're continuously sad and you don't know why. It's because all these things are working together. The grief and the fear and the desire. You want a better life, or your desire in this level is really the desire to get back at someone, or the desire to just, take revenge on life, kind of thing. But you also, in fear, you're scared of life. Okay, so then you go back into grief. So you have the desire, but you also have the fear, and that causes grief. So you have this is like a washing machine that continuously go, and then you have the grief, and then that also can lead to apathy, which leads to guilt, which leads to shame, and there you go. All right, so excuse me. The top two here is anger and pride. Now, that can sometimes be a good thing in certain circumstances. When you live down here, in the lower levels of consciousness and apathy and shame and guilt and desire and grief, then getting really angry can actually help you to just lift you out of these levels of consciousness, to lift you up. Okay? And then to be proud, there's nothing wrong about being proud of an achievement, but it's not a state of consciousness. It is a passing thing. Pride is, as we know, it says pride comes before a fall. And that actually then ties to the bottom. So you have in our language explains it to us as pretty perfectly. So you have pride and then you fall and you come down here, and what do you have? Nothing left to lose. And then you go up and you get angry and you go back to pride, and the circle just continues. You never ever get going again. Okay, so some people can, because in pride they can achieve a lot, they can make a lot of money like that, you know. But that is the look at me in the world. There's a world of look at me, I'm so fantastic, I'm so wonderful, you know. But at the end of the day, and this is what narcissism's big problem is, it is really a consciousness of guilt and shame and apathy. But the guilt and the shame then causes the people to say, you know, I'm not acceptable the way I am, so I have to create a picture in my own mind, and I have to become a different person. I have to become a person, not the real one. I have to create an avatar, and so that I can be proud of who I am, but it's not you. It's not the real person. Okay, so the pride thing then is about look at me. It's about achievements. It's about the, you know, the stuff of life. It's never about the substance of life. Okay, so I don't want to get too deep in it. I hope it's understandable. Now I'm going to skip over the middle bit. I'm going to go up as the higher levels of consciousness, and the higher levels of consciousness is life enhancing. It means it actually generates its own consciousness. It generates its own energy. So every level has energy and information and vibration in it. The energy, information, and vibration is all down. It strips vitality out of you. And here it actually adds vitality, because the really interesting thing is here it's all projected. It means you are using your own energy, and then you project the anger, you project an image that is not real. So it uses your energy. And what do you need then? You need someone else to siphon the energy from, to take the energy from. And we'll talk about that just now. But now you have the higher levels of consciousness, and this is the highest. The higher life enhancing. In other words, it adds vitality because it is extension. These are from higher consciousness, meaning it comes from the divine, which is then extended through you. It means that life is living itself through you. It's also down here, but it takes you out of the game rather quickly if you don't find someone or something to give you that energy, that acceptance, to give you the knock feed, they call it. If you don't have that kind of thing, then you go down quite rapidly. So, higher consciousness, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, and then the top one is enlightenment. Enlightenment is really where the universe disappears. There's no definition, there is no word to describe it by. Okay, so this is the higher level of consciousness. It's life enhancing and it's extension. So it's not, here's projection, here's extension. So now let's have a look. When you get to the middle part, which I blanked out, this is the switch. This is, I call it the quantum switches. That's where it's called courage. Okay. Now, courage is the switching mechanism. Here, it can either go down or it can go up. And it's very interesting to understand, how does this happen? This happens when someone is encouraged. In other words, they are lifted up. And when they go down, it's called discouragement, when you take the courage out. So if you are discouraged, you can quickly fall down here. So the idea is to have this courage as a buffer. Because when you have a lot of courage, then it's easier to go into neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, etc. It's easier because here is letting go. This is letting go. To go up higher and higher and higher, you have to let go. Here, you hold on for crazy. Okay, so that's how it works here. Okay, so let's talk about courage. It's an amazing revelation that I had when I was studying this, and I thought, you know what, courage. Why is courage the middle? You see, it can go either way. If you are encouraged, you go up. If you are discouraged, you go down. So that is why it's important to encourage people, especially if they're down here, is to bring them in a place of courage, bring them back to a state of courage, so that they can then go into neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, and so on. So very few people, in fact, there's minimum of people who ever live up here. So we live up and down. That's how life works. We don't get into one place and for one day we can live up there and then we fall down here. But there's enough buffer. In other words, to suck you back up into the higher consciousness. And so that's life goes. And if you think of this cycle, this is really how life goes. Those are the ups and downs of life. Now, the bigger your buffer is, the more courage you have that is imbued into you from outside, and self-encouragement and faith. Faith itself is a force that actually brings courage back into your being. So then you can go up into the higher levels of consciousness. Quite nifty, isn't it? All right, so we're going to talk more about this, but this is just the first quick treatment of the whole idea. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you some more ideas, especially how do you get from living here to living there. Here, there are no choices. There are very few choices. Up here is limitless, okay? Because you can see, this is a place of vision. This is a place of zero vision, okay? This is survival, and you survive as best you can. But we'll talk about that in the next video.